Having both Social Security and pension income sounds like the retirement dream. But in this video, I'm going to show you how this is actually a trap that makes retirees poor, and how to protect every dollar you've earned from the hidden risks that can quietly drain your wealth. To start, I need to show you how having both Social Security and a pension can actually leave you with less money and security in retirement, using John and Beth as an example. Their goal is to retire this year at age 65 and spend $10,000 a month. And to fund this, both will have Social Security and John has a pension. And when you add that income up, they'll have exactly $10,000 a month coming in. And this seems like the safest retirement you could ask for, because you never have to touch your savings to cover any of your expenses. And as you can see here, our retirement calculator gives them a 100% chance of never running out of money. But their retirement is actually much riskier than you'd think, because of a hidden trap that can blindside couples at the worst possible time. Let's say something were to happen and John passed away right after they retired. Let me show you what this would mean for Beth and for their retirement finances. If one spouse passes away, the survivor keeps the higher of the two Social Security benefits. So because they both have the same $3,000 a month coming in, John's income would go away and Beth would keep her same monthly benefit. But with most pension plans, if the spouse with the pension dies, the surviving spouse only gets a survivor benefit of half of the original amount. So for Beth, she would continue on with only $2,000 of the original $4,000 monthly pension income. And when we combine both of those two drops in income, Beth would go from having $10,000 a month when John was alive to now only $5,000. But even though their income dropped when John died early, they still have the same mortgage payment, the same property taxes, and many of the same monthly expenses. And when we add that drop in income from John passing away into our software, it would drop them from a 100% chance of never running out of money all the way down to 49%. Let's go back into their retirement plan and add in one additional item, a life insurance policy on John. If he died early, the death benefit of the insurance policy would give Beth the money to pay off the mortgage and cover other expenses. And when we add in the life insurance policy, their plan goes from 49% all the way back up to 100%, even if John were to pass away. But even if you do protect against this, there's another reason having both a pension and Social Security makes you poor. And it can force you to skip the bucket list trips many retirees take in their 50s and 60s, even if you have higher income in retirement. This blue line here represents Social Security and pension income. You get a guaranteed payment that keeps pace with inflation throughout retirement. But this gray line here is what's called the retirement spending smile. When researchers studied how retirees actually spend money, they found it follows this curve, shaped like a smile. Higher spending at the beginning of retirement, lower in the middle, then higher again at the end. So how does having a pension and Social Security make you miss out on trips and experiences when you're young and healthy? See this gap right here between how much retirees spend and how much pension and Social Security income covers? The problem with pension and Social Security is that you just get the same amount every month no matter what. You can't just take a $20,000 distribution from your Social Security or pension to take your dream trip when you have your health and energy. So instead of getting to spend your money while you're young, you're forced to skip those trips and experiences. And after seeing this, you might be thinking, well, I have other money saved. Why not just spend that now and then rely on my pension and Social Security for the rest of retirement? But doing this opens you up to a completely different risk. Let's go back to the smile and look at the second half. This sharp rise is due to increased spending on healthcare later in life. So in case you go into a nursing home or need additional care, you need a way to cover these costs. And you might think pensions and Social Security would be the perfect way to pay for this. They're guaranteed to be there, and they often adjust for inflation. But this chart here compares the change in costs of medical care versus general goods and services since 2000. The cost of medical care has grown close to 40% more than the cost of general goods and services. And the problem with this is that the inflation increases for your pension and Social Security are designed to match general inflation, not the cost of medical care. So if you have higher medical costs later in life, your pension and Social Security income might not be enough to cover those costs. But if your pension and Social Security won't be enough to cover higher spending early in retirement or to cover the cost of care later on, what do you do with the extra money you've saved? Well, there's actually a simple investment strategy that you can use to let you spend more in your 50s and 60s without risking running out later. It's called the Barbell strategy. Think about a barbell with a big weight on each end. One side represents the spending you'll do early in retirement. You want about half of your money invested very safely so you don't have to risk selling investments while they're down to cover that spending. Then the other side represents the end of retirement, when you may need money from your investments to cover the cost of care. These costs can be high, and they typically grow at a rate faster than inflation. So this half of your portfolio, you would invest more aggressively in stocks. And because stocks have historically outpaced even medical inflation, you're giving that money the best chance to keep up with those costs. So the key is to have some saved money available early, but leave the rest invested to cover the cost of care later on. This is how you can avoid having to hold back on spending early in retirement because you're worried about not having enough at the end. But the most expensive trap is hidden in your tax return, and it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars simply because you have both Social Security and a pension. This page shows John and Beth's income over time. When they retire, they go from having both salaries right to living off Social Security and John's pension. And this might sound like a good thing because they never have to worry about replacing their income. But that income also means they never get access to something most retirees don't even know exists. Let's say John and Beth had $300,000 in gains sitting in a brokerage account. If they want to sell those investments, they'd be forced to pay taxes on those gains. And at their capital gains bracket of 15%, that'd be about $45,000 in taxes. But for retirees who don't have both Social Security and a pension, let me show you what they can do instead. For someone without both of these income sources, their income drops when they retire. So for them, the chart might look more like this one at the bottom. In the first few years of retirement, their income can drop so low that they can sell investments and pay 0% on capital gains. So to sell the same $300,000 in gains, they'd pay $0 in taxes, while John and Beth have to pay $45,000. But the good news is you don't have to pay those higher taxes. There's actually one move you can use to wipe out a big portion of that tax bill and let you give more to a cause you care about. Let's say John and Beth are donating $10,000 of their income each year to charity. By donating this way, it's actually making them pay too much in taxes. When you donate money from your income, you pay tax on it first, then you give what's left to charity. So if you wanted to give $10,000 of your pre-tax income to charity, by the time you pay the taxes, that might only be $8,000. But instead of this, you can take your appreciated stock and donate that directly to charity. You don't have to pay taxes on the gains, which means the money you would have given to the government goes to your charity of choice instead. But here's where it gets really powerful. Instead of giving a small amount every year, John and Beth can bundle 5 years of donations and donate $50,000 of appreciated stock all at once. And when they do this, two things happen at the same time. They avoid paying capital gains tax on the stock they donated. And on top of this, they can get a $50,000 deduction that lowers their taxable income. And because of this deduction, if they sell other investments in that same year, they can do it at a much lower capital gains rate, maybe even 0%. So instead of feeling like you're stuck with a tax bill you can't escape, you can take advantage of this charitable giving strategy. But even if you're not stuck with capital gains taxes, you can still get stuck with required minimum distributions on your retirement accounts. And if you have Social Security and pension income already, these RMDs can stack on top of that income and force you to overpay on taxes and increase your Medicare premiums. So for the exact plan to avoid the tax hit from RMDs before it's too late, check out this next video.